Martha Custis Washington, 10 Shocking and Scandalous Facts. Martha Custis Washington, the inaugural First Lady of the United States, often depicted as a genteel and reserved figure in American history, had a life filled with less-known, intriguing, and sometimes shocking details. This video explores the hidden facets of her life that paint a more colorful portrait than the traditional narratives suggest. Fact number 1. Wealthy widow at a young age. Born on June 2, 1731, in New Kent County, Virginia, Martha Dandridge was the daughter of John Dandridge, a planter, and Frances Jones. Her upbringing in a moderately prosperous family helped her acquire the skills necessary for managing a large estate. At 18, she married Daniel Parke Custis, a wealthy planter, which significantly elevated her social standing. Martha became a widow at 25 when her husband died in 1757, leaving her a vast estate, including over 17,500 acres of land and about 300 enslaved individuals. Her inheritance made her one of the wealthiest widows in Virginia and uniquely positioned her as a woman with significant control over her finances and estate management. In 1759, Martha married George Washington, a marriage that brought substantial social and economic benefits, providing him with the stability and resources needed to further his military and political career. This alliance allowed them to become one of the most influential couples in colonial America, with Martha's wealth and connections playing a crucial role in their ascent. Number 2. Enslaved labor at Mount Vernon. Upon her marriage to George Washington, Martha brought a considerable number of enslaved people to Mount Vernon, which dramatically increased the estate's labor force. By the end of George Washington's life, the Mount Vernon estate utilized the labor of over 317 enslaved individuals. This aspect of their lives is often underrepresented in discussions about their legacy. The enslaved population was integral to the operation and success of the Mount Vernon estate, working in various capacities from field laborers to skilled artisans. The reliance on enslaved labor was a controversial aspect of the Washington's legacy, reflecting the complex and morally problematic foundations of many American colonial enterprises. Their treatment of enslaved people and the dynamics at Mount Vernon continue to be studied and discussed as central to understanding the contradictory nature of their contributions to American history. Number 3. A secret affair? During the American Revolutionary War, gossip and rumors circulated about Martha Washington having a possible affair with a British officer. These rumors were fueled by the intense social and political upheavals of the time. While there is no documented evidence to support these claims, the rumors themselves highlight the personal strains and public pressures faced by figures like Martha during turbulent periods. Such rumors were likely exacerbated by the political tensions of the war and the fact that Martha, like many women of her status, hosted various officers and political figures at their home. This aspect of her life underscores the intersection of personal reputation and political propaganda during the war, reflecting how private lives were often public fodder for supporters and detractors alike. Number 4. Hidden correspondence. In a deeply personal act, Martha Washington chose to burn nearly all of her correspondence with George Washington shortly before her death in 1802. This decision destroyed a vast portion of first-hand accounts of their private and political lives together. Historians believe that only 2 of their letters survived this purge. The reasons behind Martha's decision remain speculative, with some suggesting she wanted to protect their privacy or prevent any personal revelations from being publicized. This loss is particularly lamented by historians because the letters could have provided invaluable insights into their relationship and Martha's influence during the tumultuous years of the American Revolution. Joseph Ellis, a noted American historian, has commented on the incalculable loss these burned letters represent to history, as they could have shed light on the personal dimensions of one of America's foundational figures. Number 5. Martha's troubled family life. Martha Washington faced considerable personal tragedy with the loss of all 4 of her children from her first marriage to Daniel Parke Custis. Her son, John Parke Custis, died in 1781 from a camp fever contracted during the Siege of Yorktown, one of the final battles of the American Revolutionary War. His death came after the fatalities of his siblings, all of whom died at young ages. Martha's profound grief over these losses marked much of her life, influencing her demeanor and possibly her health. Her role as a mother was filled with sorrow, and these tragedies added a somber backdrop to her tenure as America's inaugural First Lady. Her personal losses underscored the high human cost paid by those involved in the founding of the nation. Number 6. Opposition to the emancipation of slaves. Martha Washington's views on slavery were complex and often contradictory. Following George Washington's death in 1799, his will stipulated the emancipation of his slaves after Martha's death. However, historical records suggest that Martha was initially opposed to this plan. Her reluctance is often viewed as reflecting her dependency on enslaved labor for maintaining her lifestyle and managing her estates. This resistance highlights the economic and social entanglements that many slaveholding widows faced at the time. Eventually, possibly influenced by concerns for her own safety and the logistical challenges of maintaining her household, Martha decided to free George Washington's slaves in 1801, a year before her death. This act was both a fulfillment of her husband's wishes and a complex decision shaped by her circumstances and the times in which she lived. Number 7. Luxury and excess in the presidential household. As America's First Lady, Martha Washington set a precedent for lavish social events and fashion that resembled the courts of European royalty. Her entertaining style and wardrobe choices, which included expensive fabrics and elegant designs, sometimes drew criticism for their perceived extravagance in the New Republic, which prized more austere virtues. Despite the critiques, her social events were elaborate affairs, often serving as a critical element of political networking in nascent American politics. These gatherings were instrumental in defining the social role of the First Lady, though they were controversial for their royal undertones in a country that had just shed monarchical rule. Number 8. Refusal to attend George's inauguration. Martha Washington did not attend George Washington's first presidential inauguration in April 1789. She reportedly expressed displeasure over his election, fearing the impact it would have on their personal lives. Her absence was widely noted and speculated upon at the time, reflecting societal expectations of the role of a political spouse. In her private correspondence, Martha described feeling like a state prisoner during her husband's presidency, highlighting her discomfort with the constraints of public life and her longing for a return to private domesticity. This sentiment underscores the personal sacrifices made by political families, even at the inception of the nation. Number 9. Opium use. It has been suggested that Martha Washington used opium later in her life to manage chronic pain, a practice that was relatively common and medically accepted in the 18th century. The specifics of her usage are not well documented, leaving much about her personal health struggles speculative. This aspect of her life points to the broader context of medical practices of the time and the personal health challenges faced by historical figures, whose personal suffering often went unrecorded in official histories. Number 10. Revolutionary War sacrifices. During the Revolutionary War, Martha Washington demonstrated remarkable commitment to the American cause and to her husband's leadership. She spent each winter from 1775 to 1783 at the American encampments, including the brutal winter at Valley Forge in 1777 to 1778. Her presence was more than symbolic, it provided tangible morale support to both the troops and her husband. Her efforts included organizing additional supplies, making clothing, and caring for the sick and injured soldiers. Martha's resilience and dedication during these harsh winters emphasized her role as a supportive partner in the struggle for independence, embodying the sacrifices made by so many on the home front during the war.